In 1879, James Ritty ran a popular saloon in Dayton, Ohio, but he was worried about bartenders who stole from the till. On a cruise to Europe, he saw a clock-like device that counted the number of revolutions on the ship's propeller. Using a similar idea, Ritty and his engineer brother designed the world's first cash register. It looked like a clock with 2 rows of typewriter-like keys below it. The clock and the minute hand the cents. Inside were 2 discs that added up the total sale. It was formerly called Ritty's Incorruptible Cash Register, but it became known as the machine that kept them honest. James Ritty, a story of American ingenuity.
It's the holiday season again, a time for togetherness, giving, and receiving. But in the excitement of opening holiday packages, don't forget to open the manufacturer's use and care booklet included in the package. The booklet contains operating instructions and other valuable tips to help you use your presents safely. So before you use your new gifts, take time to carefully read the use and care booklet. And have a safe and happy holiday season.
In the Gallery of Heroes, the United States Army's 291st Combat Engineer Battalion earned a place of honor. On December 16, 1944, Hitler launched a surprise attack through the Ardennes Forest in Belgium. In the attack that became known as the Battle of the Bulge, the Allies were caught unaware. The only force in place to stop the Germans was the 291st Engineers. The tough, confident engineers fanned out and destroyed bridges vital to the enemy. When the tide turned, they quickly repaired damaged spans and built new ones to speed the Allied advance. For their heroism, the 291st Engineers received the Presidential Unit Citation, one of the highest unit honors. The Army's 291st Combat Engineers, a credit to their service and to all who have fought so bravely.
You obey signs all day, every day. It's no different when it comes to sexual harassment. Because the DoD prohibits sexual harassment 24 hours a day, whether you're male or female. So do your part and obey the signs.
Wouldn't it be great if everything was right in the world? If the weather was perfect all the time? If everyone had plenty to eat every day? If everyone stayed healthy and there was no suffering? It would be great if everything was right in the world, but it's not. And it's up to all of us to help make it better. Please give generously to the combined federal campaign. You can make a world of difference.
Foreign substances are being introduced into your body on a daily basis. Over time, they can hurt your health. In the wrong amounts, they can increase your risk of heart disease. But you do have choices, and one is to change the way you eat. To learn how a low-fat, low-cholesterol diet can help you, contact the American Heart Association. Your life is in your hands.
Aerial surveillance has revolutionized military strategy. Even in World War I, aerial cameras like this replica were used by U.S. Army observation units, and the surveillance photos helped turn the tide in favor of the Allies. In the summer of 1918, the Germans had fought their way to the Marne River. The Allies halted the advance, but knew the Germans were massing for another attack. Desperate to know the German positions, the Allied command called on the American First Corps Observation Group. Day after day, the First Corps pilots flew low over enemy lines. They were under constant attack. Yet, on the eve of the German assault, the group discovered the main enemy supply depot. Bombers destroyed the depot, weakening the German attack and setting the stage for a successful Allied counteroffensive. The pilots of the First Corps Observation Group, a proud part of America's legacy of courage.
The Jefferson Memorial in Washington, D.C. honors Thomas Jefferson, 3rd President of the United States, author of the Declaration of Independence. As president, he doubled the size of the nation. In a lifetime of leadership, he gave that nation vision and purpose. In the Declaration of Independence, he wrote of the need to shake off tyranny. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights. Among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. The Jefferson Memorial, reminding America of powerful ideas that gave it birth.
You're on the move now and ready to prove now you're truly one of a kind. Yeah, you got the fire, you got the power, it's all certified. There's no doubt what I'm talking about. You're fortified with pride. Yeah, you got the muscle and you got the hustle, ready every day and night. You know what it means to be a part of the team. You do America right.
Roger, objective is clear, over.
You can see it everywhere. Every day, you can count on it whenever the challenge presents itself. It's nothing new. Plain and simple, it's good, old-fashioned teamwork.
Yeah, there's no doubt what I'm talking about when I see you fortified with pride.
Many early American inventors had some interesting ideas on automation. Take, for example, this device, an early version of the alarm clock. At the precise moment, a spindle inside the clock released a hook. Attached to the hook was a string connected to 60 small pieces of wood. As the hook let go, this frame would drop on the sleeper's face, waking him ever so gently. And then there was the portable air withdrawing apparatus, otherwise known as a vacuum cleaner. As the nozzle was pushed along the floor, the operator walked on 2 bellows strapped to her feet. The suction picked up the dirt through the nozzle. And for the ultimate in laziness, there is the automatic hat tip. As the wearer approached a young lady, he would simply nod his head, and the device under his hat did the rest. A counterweight swung forward, pulling the back of the bowler up in a casual, proper salute to the pair of 6. They were all good automation ideas that needed a little more work back at the drawing board.
When you buy over-packaged products, you're really saying, go ahead, pollute our air and water. So when they tell you to look for less packaging, you tell them you'd rather throw it all away. Buy smart, waste less, save more.
Enjoy the magic of the holidays. Season's greetings from AFRTS.
For want of a nail, hard to turn out enough of them to build the barricades and barracks the Continental Army needs desperately. Still, winning the war proves to be tough as nails. Colonists lose the battle of Princeton. At Monmouth, the fortification in New York is taken by a superior British force. Brandywine is lost. So is Germantown. The English even take Philadelphia, beloved Philadelphia. Worst to come is facing winter at a camp called Valley Forge. But the colonists know that better days must lie ahead, because you can't smother the spirit of freedom once it's born. In 1777.
The word's come down. The British are coming. Oh, and this time we're going to be ready. King George thinks he can tax us to no end. But we're having none of that anymore. It's independence we want, and we're willing to fight for it.
The spirit of independence. It's been a part of the American character ever since the battles of Lexington and Concord in 1775, when volunteer soldiers known as Minutemen turned back the British. It was the spirit that led to the inclusion in our Constitution of provisions guaranteeing the sovereignty of individual states. And it led independent-minded women like Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Lucretia Mott in their efforts to win American women the right to vote.
The British may outnumber us, but they'll never defeat us because we possess the spirit of independence.
Since it appeared on uniform buttons in 1804, the eagle and the anchor have symbolized the United States Marine Corps. The crested eagle on the emblem of the U.S. Marines is the symbol of service in any part of the world. It holds the Marines' motto, Semper Fidelis, in its beak. The anchor and rope symbols have traditionally represented sea duty. The globe symbol was originally used by the British for their Marines. The Western Hemisphere was added in 1868 to emphasize that the Marines were the United States Marines. A golden rope encircles the emblem enclosing the words, Department of the Navy, United States Marine Corps. The emblem of the Marine Corps. When you know what it means more.
We didn't have much to give then. Thin crop left us with hardly enough apples to fill the stand. So when they showed up, firing them mean looks around the place and staring us down on prices, I was angry. Didn't seem to bother my father, though. He let them set a fair price. Too low, I thought. Then he did something I never would have done. He had me load another bushel of apples in their trunk. I learned later on that this family was in need. We did the right thing that day.
Who you become depends on what you do for others along the way. A message from the Credit Union Foundation and your hometown credit union.
Good evening, Zena. Allow me to assist you with your meal selection.
Yes, thank you, Omicron. What should I have for an entree?
You may choose from meat, poultry, or seafood.
I'll have the broiled chicken, skinless, please.
Very good choice. To go along with that, may I recommend wild rice to fulfill the grain requirement?
Yes. Do I also need a vegetable?
Yes, because each food group provides some, but not all, of the nutrients you need. For good health, you need to plan daily meals, choosing food from each of the 5 food groups.
Very well. I'll have the broccoli.
Excellent combination. You still need to fill the dairy and fruit categories.
I'll have skim milk for dairy and raspberries for dessert.
Bon appetit. Choose wisely from the 5 food groups. It could help you stay fit and healthy well into the next century.
In In 1852, Henry and Clement Studebaker opened a blacksmith shop and wagon building company in South Bend, Indiana. Within 20 years, Studebaker Brothers had become one of the world's largest manufacturers of wagons and buggies, and successfully made the transition in the 20th century to manufacturing cars and trucks. Visitors to the Studebaker National Museum in South Bend, Indiana, can see a collection of vehicles and displays from this industrial pioneer. In addition to cars designed for the American consumer and racing cars, there are also military vehicles. These include trucks, ambulances, tank-like military transports, and even the radial engines for the B-17 Flying Fortress. Studebaker National Museum.
Each generation has its fad, from flagpole sitting to hula hoops. It's all part of the wacky and wonderful side of life in America.
In the early days of Florida's settlement, roads were few and mail delivery was often difficult. So if someone sent a letter from Palm Beach to Miami, the letter first had to travel by boat and train to New York, then by ship to Havana, then by schooner to Miami. The letter had to travel 3,000 miles and took as much as 2 months to arrive. A person could have literally walked it there faster. The U.S. Post Office soon realized this, and in 1885 established the barefoot route. Mail carriers were hired to walk the 136 miles barefoot along the shore, crossing the inlets in rowboats they stowed in the brush. The journey was hazardous and physically demanding, and one carrier even lost his life in the line of duty. When railroads finally linked the settlements in 1892, the route was discontinued. Today, a marker at the Hillsborough Lighthouse silently honors the barefoot mailmen who served the area.
An estuary is an arm of the sea that extends inland to meet the mouth of a river. Chesapeake Bay is the largest estuary in America. Here, 6 rivers meet the sea, creating a unique and fertile environment. The city of Baltimore takes full advantage of its position on the bay. This historic place is the largest commercial and urban center along the Chesapeake. The bay also serves as an immense playground for many kinds of watercraft. All these activities take place in a complex and delicate ecosystem. Today, people along the Chesapeake are working to protect this great bay so that it can serve their children and their grandchildren.
This year, 1763, marks the end of the French and Indian War, fought long and hard. For a time there is peace, a time to rest and prosper. But all's not quiet in the colonies this year. People hereabouts are fed up with the Crown's rule, with its unfair taxes, and when a man named Jonathan Boucher preaches that the authority of the British government is divine and that we have got to knuckle under, folks here get so worked up listening to him that Boucher has to carry a pair of loaded pistols. In 1763, a survey is being done on the border between Pennsylvania and Maryland. Surveyors Charles Mason and Jeremiah Dixon draw a line that will separate north from south, the Mason-Dixon line, shaping America in 1763.
When you give through the combined federal campaign, you join many others who believe not only in improving people's lives today, but in helping them succeed tomorrow. Please give. It's a good thing to do.
Many early American inventors had some interesting ideas on pest control. Of course, there were lots of better mousetraps. For example, the simple jar system. As the mouse nibbled on the cheese, the arm would fall, releasing the trap door, which would slam down, catching the mouse in the bottle. Then there was the elaborate rat trap. As the rodent stuck his head into the box with the cheese, a spring catch would release a special necklace containing 2 jingle bells. The theory was that the noise the frightened rat would make would scare all the other rats out of the house. For flies, you could try a fly swatting gun, a small spring-powered device that shot a small round screen at the unsuspecting insects. And of course, no home was complete without the electrical bedbug exterminator. Tiny electrical switches were placed along the bed frame. As a bedbug crawled across the open switch, his body would close the circuit, thereby electrocuting the bed pest. They were all good pest control ideas that needed a little more work back at the drawing board.
Barcode systems have been used for many years, but the harsh environments of space have led to new barcode labels for inventory control of space shuttle parts. A special anodized aluminum label was developed that could withstand temperatures up to 1,400 degrees. These labels are also being used in harsh environments on Earth, helping to keep inventories organized in automotive factories and other manufacturing areas. Another new development came out of studies conducted in the mid-60s on hard-shell pressure suits, which were to be used on the moon. Although plans to colonize the moon were put on hold, those studies were used to develop a hard-shell underwater pressure suit, capable of depths to 1,000 feet. The suit maintains normal air pressure for the diver, so there's no risk of divers getting the bends. Better barcode labels and deep-sea diving suits. Space technology at work here on Earth.
Back in the early 1900s, cotton was the main crop, and sometimes the only crop, in many parts of the southern U.S. In 1915, a terrible infestation of the Mexican boll weevil destroyed 12,000 bales of cotton, a third of the annual harvest, and wrecked future crops for years. Because of that disaster, farmers learned they had to diversify, and that led to bumper harvests of other crops and livestock. To thank the Mexican boll weevil for leading them to their good fortune, the citizens of Enterprise, Alabama, erected a statue of a woman raising a boll weevil to heaven. The inscription reads, "In profound appreciation of the boll weevil and what it has done as the herald of prosperity." The boll weevil statue, the only monument to a pest in the United States.
His footsteps fell silently on the cratered ground, and he looked back often for the reassuring sight of his rocket ship. Although realizing one of mankind's grandest dreams, the moment was shadowed by the overwhelming desolation of this strange and empty place.
The spirit of vision. While the rest of the world marveled over aviation in the early 1900s, some Americans possessed the foresight and imagination to anticipate the future, and they weren't alone. The spirit of vision led Simon Lake in 1897 to invent the Argonaut, an iron-wheeled predecessor to today's underwater research vessels. And in 1908, it inspired Henry Ford to produce cars in Detroit using an assembly line that revolutionized the industry.
It's a clear sky tonight. There's no telling what we might discover with a good telescope and the spirit of vision.